Akwa Ibom Northeast. Mr. President, this is a motion on the urgent need to reform the housing policy and mortgage financing in Nigeria to meet the escalating housing demands in the country. Mr. President, this motion is sponsored by my humble self and co-sponsored by 8 other of my colleagues, as stated in the order paper. The Senate, aware that shelter is one of the basic needs of man and ranked next only to air, food, water, sleep, and constitute the largest expenditure item of an average household. This Senate observes that in Nigeria, the low and middle class income earners constitute the largest active population making affordable houses a equivalent tax in their lifetime. This Senate recalls that the creation of National Housing Fund through the National Housing Fund Act of 1992 was to cater for the majority of Nigerians in line with the various national housing policies and the various international conventions and treaties, like the Universal Declaration of Human Rights 1948, International Conventions on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights 1966, on affordable housing, to which the country is a signatory. This Senate also recalls that by virtue of the provision of National Housing Act, a working-class Nigerian is required to contribute 2.5% of his or her monthly salary to the fund, which provides the source of funding to the primary mortgage institutions, the PMIs. This Senate worried that access to the fund through the PMI is cumbersome due to stringent and complex eligibility criteria, which makes the development of housing through the fund challenging or practically impossible to date. For example, since the creation of the fund in 1992, the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, as at 2013, disbursed only 100.5 billion naira. In 2015, out of the 4 million registered contributors to the fund, only 60,000, which is just 1.5%, were able to access mortgage loans through the fund, leading to the construction of only 40,653 houses across the country. This Senate alarmed that the National Housing Policy projections of government by 2020 provides for a minimum of 17.5 million housing schemes in the country to cater for the projected population growth of 200 million Nigerians. This vision is practically unattainable. This Senate concerns that the national housing caters for only the housing needs of the working class contributors, whereas 80% of the active population of Nigeria remains unemployed. This Senate worried that the disposable loan limit through the funds was reviewed from 5 million to 10 million naira and 15 million 25 years ago, and has remained so till date, despite drastic economic changes over the years. And this Senate further worried that there exists little or no impact of the National Social Housing Development Program in the country over the years, and owing to the escalating population growth in our country, there is a dire and urgent need for a total review of our national housing policy framework to meet the needs of our people, especially the poorest Nigerians, in line with the various international conventions and treaties of which Nigeria is a signatory. This Senate accordingly resolved to mandate the Committee on Housing to urgently work out modalities with the various stakeholders in national housing development sector to ensure the implementation of the affordable housing across the country to cater for the ever-increasing population and most especially the poorest Nigerian. Mr. President, I so move.
I am Senator Ashiru, representing the good people of Kwara South. I am moving a motion to support. I am seconding this motion. Sorry. I'm seconding this motion because it's one of the most important sectors of our economy. and I praise the mover of this motion for bringing forth the importance of housing, national housing policy in particular, and Nigeria mortgage system. If we look at the need of housing in Nigeria, for a population of 200 million people, and at an average of 5 persons per house, you will discover that the housing need of Nigeria in totality will be in upward of 40 million homes. My greatest concern is that when you look at the cost of a single house, value at average of 5 million naira, what we totally invest in housing as a nation will be in upward of 200,000 trillion naira. This is a big part of our national resources. And the greatest concern always is that this money, in most cases, is always invested in what we describe as a debt equity that are not usable. So I think the first principle is that as a nation, we should find a way of activating this equity. The strength of any equity is the disposability of it, the exchange you can make with such investments. And in particular, the greatest problem to activating this equity is the issue of documentation. And one of those things that we should strengthen is that documents on houses and property and land should be done very well in Nigeria so that they can be disposable. The issue of mortgage in Nigeria is a pathetic situation. If you look at an average of 10 million mortgage loan in Nigeria, and with the ruling interest rate of between 5 and 10%, you will discover that for an average Nigerian earners, on this 10 million loan, will probably be paying 80,000 naira interest every month. This is not workable for Nigerians in general because of low earning level. And I think that our mortgage, especially Federal Mortgage Bank, should be redressed in such a way that the interest rate should be as low as possible. In countries that are working, where mortgages are working very well, you discover that in most cases the interest rate is in the range of 2 and 3%. It is advisable too. The Senate should work a system where the interest rate is brought down to the minimum. Having said this, in most cases, the issue of social housing and a very deep subsidy on housing ownership should be looked into. Having said this, I am supporting the motion that the Committee on Housing should look deeply into our housing sector finance and housing policy. Thank you, Mr.
Distinguished colleagues, my name is Binos Dauda Yaro, representing Adamawa South. I rise to add my voice in support of this motion because housing is one of the most fundamental needs of man. After food and clothing, the next thing is housing. So it is important for this sector to be reformed so that our people can have housing. Mortgage financing is an important tool of funding housing construction. But unfortunately, this sector is in its infancy in this country. We know what happens in other climes where a worker can take a mortgage finance to buy a house or to build a house. And he can pay for that over a long period of time. But this is not available properly in this country. So it is important for us to really review the policy of housing and also mortgage financing. Not just because it provides to provide houses for people, but because the housing construction sector is a job creation industry. Because it is labor intensive, it provides a lot of jobs for the people. So I add my voice to this, and I urge my colleagues to support this motion. I so submit. Thank you.
To urgently work out modalities with various stakeholders in the national housing development sector to ensure the implementation of affordable housing across the country to cater for the ever-increasing population and most especially the poorest Nigerians. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.